once you got your foot into the door, or that industry, you're able to essentially move around to wherever. If I wanted to be more design focused, I could, get into a design role. And that's really what I just wanted the opportunity to get my foot into the corporate world.
I was actually initially looking for apprenticeships.
That student finance refused to give me anything to pay for my degree.
Oh, I get to work and study and get paid at the same time. I was like, yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of the 1 to 100 Architecture Podcast, where we delve into everything design related, shed some light on our personal experiences, and help you in understanding the architecture realm. This is season 3, No Offence, and this episode is No Offence, Architecture is a Dead End. So today I'm here with Basma, Naomi and Bethany, and our special guest, Benee. And you are listening to me, Adonai. So Benee is a 23-year-old award-winning international artist with a passion for all things creative. She is a business and project analyst by profession and also studies project management part-time at university. So welcome, Benee, to the podcast.
Hey, Benee. Welcome.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Benee, and your initial interest in architecture.
Okay, so a little bit about myself. I never know how to answer those questions. So as I mentioned, I'm 23 years old, currently working in a consultancy firm. And in terms of my initial interest in architecture, that all began right after year 13, when everyone was asking themselves, what's next, after school. And I knew for as long as I remember that I've always just loved creating. I've always loved drawing. I've always loved art. I just always loved that design element. And I was looking at all the different outlets that are out there, and architecture was one of the opportunities or one of the career paths that I came across when I was doing my research. And also because my good friend here, Adonai, was also studying architecture, and I was like, oh, I want to be like her. That's where that interest really began. Yeah.
That's great. And I mean, tell us, how you got into it, and then kind of like...
Oh, you want me to go deep?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay, cool. So we're going to just start at year 13. Leaving school now, I wanted to study architecture. Wow, okay, this one's going to get real deep, guys.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
That's what we're here for.
I was prepared to do what I needed to do to get in. I managed to get, the grades. I managed to pretty much prepare myself, and I applied to all the universities, and I applied to, am I allowed to say Oxford Brookes?
Yeah, of course.
Oxford Brookes, yeah, Oxford Brookes. Shout out OB. So I got in. I was really excited to start. September, enrollment, got in there, all the freshers fair, all the parties, it was looking lit. I was excited, finally get to live out my dream of studying architecture. And then October came, and it was time for me to essentially it was like the admissions week or something, where you have to go in and basically bring in your ID and, just sign up to the course and start your lectures and stuff. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to get enrolled. And the reason was because basically I didn't have the necessary documentation to study. And I was very much heartbroken. And that was something that became very real to me when I got to uni. So essentially I had to pack my stuff and leave. And I thought that was the end for me. That's it. I can't study anymore, because the intricacies of it is that student finance refused to give me anything to pay for my degree, and my parents were in no position to pay, 37,000 a year or whatever. So I had to leave. And then I went home and I cried. I was really upset because all my friends were at uni, you know, like everyone's living the dream and it looked so fun. Uni looked so fun in first year. Like it just looked like the place to be. You know, you're away from your parents, you have all the freedom. Like it just looked like I really wanted to be at uni, but I couldn't. I had to go back home. And it was even more difficult because every time someone would, you know, message you, they'll be like, oh, how's uni? And I was like, I can't even say because I was at that point, I wasn't prepared to share like my reason why I couldn't go. So it was even more difficult to deal with at that time. So I was really, really upset. But I just thank God for the friends and the family that I had around me because they were very, very supportive. I thank God for Adonai, Amani, and, you know, all my sisters like really just stood there for me and, you know, supported me and definitely made that difficult part of my life a lot easier. And so at that point, from what I knew anyway, I think the main way to get into architecture is to study at university.
Yeah.
And obviously at that point I can't get into uni. So I just thought that's the end of my dream. Like I can't be an architect anymore. I had to think of other mediums or what else can I do at this stage. And at that point, as I mentioned, I didn't have the necessary documentation to actually enter into any sort of profession or any sort of educational institution. So all I could do was draw. And that is when I started my business, which is BK Visuals.
Make sure you follow that.
Honestly,
He's really
like,
good.
you're an amazing
It's
artist.
really
Thank you
talented.
so much.
And I remember like the first time I saw your drawings in person was in that exhibition at Brooks. Which is so weird because it's
exactly.
almost like the place that you weren't
Yeah,
able to
it was
get
a full
into.
circle moment.
Like
yeah.
you got to present like your amazing like talent. But yeah, no, honestly, check it out, guys. It's stunning.
Thank you so much. But yeah, so that's when I started drawing. So that's like over 3 years ago now. And so, yeah, I just sort of looked at the bad situation. I tried to make the most out of it. I had all this free time, so I just developed my skills, watching lots of YouTube videos, like perfecting my, you know, my craft. And yeah, it really took off for me in that first year. I was able to create portraits for a lot of, you know, well-known people. Celebrities reached out to me. Like it was something I did not see come in, especially from where I thought I was, you know, I thought it was a dead end for me. Like I had nowhere to go. So yeah, that's a bit of the story of the architecture side of it, I suppose.
It's like such a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Literally, I felt like I was on a ride like from the start. But honestly, like, I mean, I commend your growth and your ability to like,
definitely.
you know, re-navigate yourself. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's hard, you know, like sometimes when you're in the thick of like that struggle, it's really hard for you to see that like that end in
That
sight.
end in sight, exactly.
So I mean, the fact that you came out of it is so good, and like I think a lot of people out there would want to hear this because
Yeah.
we live in a world where things are very unexpected. So you know, and people don't realize the skills that they have. So like it's like a lot of things that we have internally can really be transferable to a lot of things. So yeah, like,
Exactly. No, definitely.
So am I right in saying that you've moved away from architecture now? So is that chapter of your life closed, or since you're now in property management? Or no,
Project management.
Project
Yeah.
management,
Yeah, I was actually going to get onto that. So obviously, after I think about a year and a half of just sort of being at home and just working on my drawings and, you know, focusing on that side, just being creative, I started to apply to apprenticeships. And, you know, I couldn't really find anything architectural based or anything that I could do without having prior, you know, having studied architecture already. So the only other options that were available to me, I saw like quantity surveying, I saw planning, I saw project management. And at that time, apprenticeships were very, very popular. So it was very, very hard to get anything. So at that point, I was like, you know, anything, just give me anything. Just give me anything, honestly. I'll take it. So I applied to so many. And then eventually I found like a project management apprenticeship. And the reason why I went for that one is because it seemed to be quite flexible in that once you got your foot into the door or that industry, you're able to essentially move around to wherever. If I wanted to be more design focused, I could, you know, get into a design role. And that's really what I just wanted the opportunity to get my foot into the corporate world, like just the working environment. and the company that I did end up working for, it does focus a lot on built environment. We do a lot of design work in buildings, and also the railway is one of our biggest sort of streams of income. We do a lot of design work for Network Rail and just, the general frameworks throughout the UK. So yeah, like I think I still have I still have the outlet in terms of, design outlet in the workplace. But I think, yeah, architecture probably would just probably be, at this point, I don't see myself being an architect anyway, just because of how everything has happened. But I definitely
want to.
Pardon?
Would you still want to?
I think I've sort of grown out of it a bit.
Do you say grow up? Or
No,
grown out?
grown out of it. Nothing childish about being an architect, guys.
I don't know. I was ready. She's like, what?
No, I think just because of how everything
grown.
happened, like my circumstances, and like, just there's certain doors that I wasn't able to get into purely because of my situation, not because of what I wanted, but just because of what happened to me.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, just because, as I said, where I am now, I still have so much, like creative freedom. And also, if I wanted to move into a different role where I'm more design based, I can do that. There's so much opportunity out there. And I didn't realize that, university wasn't the only way until I found this opportunity. Obviously, now I'm in uni because it's an apprenticeship. So I'm in uni 1 day a week. It's a part-time study and then full-time work. But I think, I think it definitely just opened my eyes to a different career path than just going to uni, getting your degree and then finding a job. So
it's so interesting because it's like it's not you like just compromising or just finding like like something to replace it. It's like now it's become like your thing, like what you like to do. So yeah, it's interesting. You started off with like just not like you weren't sure and you were so set on one thing. And that's the thing, it's like we lead our lives being set on like this is what we want to do, and we don't realise how much more you can do and how much you can offer as a person. So yeah,
that's so true. Just, I think it's a testament to who you are, really. Like, you just seem like you're resilient. You're going to go for something. If that doesn't work out, I'm going to try something else. And I feel like, had you not been in the position, where you didn't get into architecture, I don't think you would have known about, like, apprenticeships or, like, project management or surveying. So, yeah, talk a little bit about project management, your day-to-day. Like, what does that look like?
Okay. Yes. So as I mentioned, the role that I'm currently in is a business and project analyst. I started off as a trainee project manager, so that role was a lot more project management based. So essentially, because I am a trainee, so a lot of my days I'm just assisting senior project managers or principal project managers with major projects, because the work that my company does are quite like high scale, so we need people that have like 20 years plus experience to be handling those sort of projects. So I offer more of like an assistant role, but I really like it because of the fact that I'm able to learn a lot from people that have gone ahead of me, people that are really experienced and know what they're doing. And I think my day to day, a lot of it is just learning, just gaining experience, gaining knowledge in things, so that once I do graduate and I'm progressing onto the next level of my career, I don't just have a degree, but I have all these years of on the job experience that my counterparts would not be able to say the same for, because they would have just come out of uni. So I think that would probably be. Yeah, that's what my day-to-day looks like. It's just lots of supporting and lots of, offering creative solutions that maybe people that have been in the industry for, years and years and years, they may not have thought about. But me, I'm coming in with a fresh set of eyes, looking at like, actually, how about we try this? And that's something that, a lot of companies look for. And that's why a lot of companies are now trying to bring on apprentices into their company, because they want that fresh perspective.
Those who are eager to learn as well.
Exactly, eager to learn as well, and are not just there because they want to make money, because of course everyone wants to make money, but we're at the stage in our lives where we're very much we want to develop, we want to grow, so we just want to learn. And that's what I'd say to that.
What would you say, like, because as a project manager, you kind of have an overview of how a project runs. Like, what's the main thing that you've learned that you didn't really think in terms of how a project runs and what you actually need to consider?
Yeah, I think one thing I've learned is there's so many things that go into a project. Like, there's so many components and so many moving parts. And I think, for example, like, we walk outside, we see a building, all you see is just the outside of it, and like, it's a nice building, it looks nice. But when I entered the project management world, then I realized that, like, there's so many different roles. Like, there's technical lead, there's a designer, there's an engineer, there's so many different people that contribute to make that project what it is. And every single position is important. Like, no one's role is more important than another person's role. And that's something I've learned very quickly. That as a project manager, you need to see everyone as equally important and equally, contributing to the success of the project. Because, it's all well and good having an engineer who knows what he's doing, but if your designer's not, pulling his weight, if your designer's not, like, delivering on the work, then it's not going to meet the client's brief, and then ultimately the project has failed, even though everyone else did their part. So every single person plays a vital role in making a project what it is. And, so when you see something that's completed, you see a building, you see, for example, the Elizabeth line, there were so many companies. I believe one of our teams actually worked on that as well. So many different companies that contributed to what it is right now. And I'm certain that everyone's role was important to having it finally be completed. So, yeah, that's something I've learned whilst being a project manager.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, like, not only within your role, because you mentioned that you have your art business and then you're currently working, studying apprenticeships. So you're studying, you're doing a lot. Like, how do you balance all of that? So your side hustles, social life, passions with your career?
Gosh, I think the key thing is discipline. That's something I had to learn very, very quickly, because I'm not going to lie and say that I'm on top of everything, because I'm not. Like, every day I'm still learning and I'm realizing actually I could have done this differently. Exactly. Yeah. There are days when, like, I'm getting 100 things done. Then there are days where I wake up and nothing's getting done. Like, literally, I hope my employer doesn't watch this, but sometimes, you log on, you quickly, move your mouse around and you go back to bed. Like, you're just not with it.
Everyone can relate to that.
Yeah, honestly, like, you're not even with it that day, and you have those days, and it's not the best, especially when you have so much to do. Yeah. But I've learned that, discipline is very, very important, and, setting daily goals and making sure you meet those goals and not becoming complacent. It's very, very easy to become complacent, especially when you reach a certain level where you think, okay, everything is good enough. Like, this is good enough. I'm at an okay level here, so I can stay here, because there's no room for growth, and there's always something you can do better. There's always. I remember when I first started my drawing, and, like, I reached a certain level and I was like, this is good enough. Like, everyone seems to like what they're getting from me. I can stop here. And then, I quickly learned, actually, Benee, like, there are people that are doing the same thing as you, and they, hard work, in my opinion, hard work beats talent. Like, hard work definitely 100%. Has potential to beat talent. And if they're working harder than you, your talent is going to be nothing compared to theirs. So, you need to accompany that talent with hard work. You need to be disciplined. And that's definitely something that has helped me to be able to balance all the different things that I try to do on a daily basis. So, yeah, discipline is key.
I think, like, especially with what you're saying about growth, in our, like, society and the way that we were sort of raised, let's say with the school system, we've sort of come accustomed to the belief that growth is linear. So, like, you go from, I don't know, like, let's say in the world of, like, architecture, you're just an architectural assistant, then you're an architect, then you're senior architect, and it's like, that's just for some people that's absolutely fine, but I think it's good to sort of open your eyes a bit more and realize that, as you were saying, that there's so many things you can do, and that because we've sort of been it's kind of weird. It's like we've lived in this bubble, and it's weird, but, like, brainwashed into thinking that's the way things should just go, and, like, the fact that you've, like, sort of exactly. Because I have these discussions with my brother, my, like, siblings, and, like, they're not even, like, he's doing an apprenticeship as well, but he doesn't see, like, his future, like, he doesn't define his future based on, like, let's say the next stage of his apprenticeship. It's the things that he does like in his room after work that really gets him going. So, like similarly to your like your background in like artistry and stuff like that. But in terms of like degree apprenticeships, how was your journey with that? And like just talk about that in a sense. Did you sort of enjoy that journey? Did it? Do you feel like there were more things that they could have offered you in terms of the direction that you wanted to go?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Okay, so when I first started in my first year of my degree of apprenticeship, I learned very quickly that my company was quite new to the idea of degree apprenticeships because no one knew what they were doing. Like, imagine I went a whole year of working, and my employer could not find me a university that offered the course that they employed me to do, which was weird because I thought, why would you advertise the role if you're not prepared to?
It should be the other way around.
Exactly. So like it was quite a rocky start on their end, but I liked the fact that, you know, once I did manage to get onto it, they were so supportive. And I like the fact that with my particular degree apprenticeship, I don't know if this is the case everywhere else, but they really prioritize your studies as well. So if ever I have exams coming up, I just have to tell my boss, like, you know, I have this assignment and I need some time. He'll give me study leave. So I don't have to work that week.
Just right off the bat? Or like do you have a certain amount of like days in a year?
No, I mean, there's so contractual agreements already that are just sort of the baseline. So for my degree apprenticeship, I believe I have to have 900 hours of off the job training or studies in order to complete it. So my employer has to give me a certain amount of days off in the week to just do project management work, like just sort of studying or uni work. And then alongside that as well, they also have to supply me with any sort of support that I need. So if I say that I'm falling behind on this course, you know, they want me to pass, because ultimately the contract is that if I don't pass my degree, then I have to pay them back.
Oh, good.
I have to pay back. So that's how it works. So it's not a free ride, like, you know, you get a free degree, you don't have to pay for it. Like, you have to pass it as well. And that's something that people don't realize, that it's not some sort of straight, like, you know, it's an easy get out of, you know, not doing anything. No, you have to work hard. So you have to pass it in order to, you know, obviously get the qualification, but also because you owe it to your employer to pass as well, because that's the reason why they're paying for you, because they believe that you have the potential to, you know, to do really well. Like, they want you to do well, obviously. So they're very, very supportive. So the degree apprenticeship route is definitely, I do not regret it at all, and I'm very, very glad that, you know, I went for it when the opportunity came. The employers are very, very, very supportive in that field, but sometimes there can be quite a bit of pressure as well, because obviously you're working at the same time and there's still deadlines both at uni and at work, and you have to balance it. You know, there are days where, you know, like, I can't even, like, I have an assignment due and I also have a report that I need to submit to my boss on the same day, and I'm literally there working, like, going crazy. That's like, it's crazy, honestly.
Telling me about my life.
It's so difficult, but I think it's definitely worth it. Like, obviously I'm done for the year now, so I'm just working until September, but I still have that extra day off in the week to do my own independent study, so that I'm ahead when I do start again in September. Good, so it's a really supportive system, and I think it's well rounded, honestly.
Well, you definitely earned the title being a multitasker. Like, no one can argue with you on that. Like, you know, when you go on job interviews and you're like, I'm ambitious, I'm this, but multitasker, like, they have to believe that. I'm sorry. But I mean, it's interesting because, like, different industries approach the apprenticeships quite different, like in a different way. Like, I know in like certain companies, like, they're very strict in the amount of study leave days. Like, if you run out, you run out. Like, it's on you. Like, it's peak. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? But it's good that you don't really necessarily you don't have that, because they realize the depth and weight of it, and they actually appreciate it more. And there's also some companies that would possibly, like, they see that as, you going off for like study leave is like affecting your time at work.
Yeah.
And when they don't realize that those two things they're on the same boat. Like your training outside of practice is as valuable as what you're essentially just training altogether.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be seen as different.
Yeah.
And that's value added for the company as well.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. And there's things there's skills that you learn, like for instance with the architecture apprenticeship, the skills that you learn like at university that you won't be able to learn in practice. Like things like, for instance, we're doing like carbon calculations on Grasshopper. Like, when am I gonna have the time to learn that? in industry when I'm doing something that's completely different. Like, do you know what I mean? So, but it's good that you have that, like 100%.
Yeah,
like,
apprenticeships are winning right now. I think. Because honestly, I think it's such a good thing, and I'm really all for it, because for the government, like supporting businesses to take on more apprentices for like a case, oh my god, similar to yours, where like some people don't have the means or the ability or whatever circumstances happen for you to go and take the traditional route to get the career that you want. Sometimes like it doesn't work out like that.
Exactly.
It's just people can't, and so it's given a lot of people an opportunity to still make it and still do what they want and still achieve their dreams, but taking it a different route, and you'll still get there in the end.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm glad I took, because I'm doing the apprenticeship like Basma in architecture, and
that's why I totally relate to like
I'm not gonna lie, I'm very happy. Sorry, Bethany.
It's okay.
I'm very happy I took the apprenticeship.
Yeah,
same. It's hard. Let's not. No one can lie to you and say it's easy, because that one. Nah. But it's definitely like it gives you a financial freedom as well, because then you're also working and you've got like steady income coming in, and as long as you're able to balance the both, then I think you get the best of both worlds. And it's not a thing of like to try and get to where you are quickly, because sometimes taking a master's or some time out to actually go to university is more beneficial, depending on the way you learn, because you need 100% concentration, and that way you get what you need and you get everything out of it. But sometimes, like, if that's not available to you, then you've got a different option that's also accredited and also is as valuable.
Yeah, I think it's like you were saying, it's also great that they have that route. And I think you were saying, like, when you were starting out, there wasn't many architecture apprenticeships available. I think it's relatively like up and coming. I know Basma and Naomi are doing it now, and I guess my question is to both you, Naomi and Basma. In hindsight, do you think that you would have done, I guess, the level 6 architecture apprenticeship? Because I think I was looking. Yeah, I was looking out there before this episode, and there are a few level 6 apprenticeships out there now. I think, back then there wasn't that opportunity for you. But I guess my question would be to you as well. Benee, would you take the level 6 apprenticeship?
100%.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Definitely.
The thing is, it's so hard. No, because there's so much. It's hard to... because you've lived through, like, part 1, I've gone through it, and I honestly, like, I look back at those times, and you guys are part of that, so I'm like, I can't take that away. I can't.
Getting emotional now.
No, I'm actually an emotional person. But I can't, like, as in, if I didn't know what I was going to go into, and, like, have the experience I had, I probably would. I was actually initially looking for apprenticeships. When I first started applying, I would actually scroll through the government website, the apprenticeship website, and it would just come up with different things like hairstylist, this and that. Maybe I was looking the wrong season, but
before?
This was before I started
undergrad. So undergrad time.
No, not during undergrad. It was before. So like
before,
as I was like the UCAS times.
Oh, okay.
So I was trying to see if there was a way. I was interested in going into industry because I was set on wanting to do architecture from the start. But I just couldn't find it at all. So I was like, oh, that's a shame. Like I would see it stuff like engineering, accounting. I was like, why not architecture?
Yeah, I did the same thing as well.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I I remember having a look through, because at that point I just wanted something creative to do, but that one was also an option. I was like, oh, I get to work and study and get paid at the same time. I was like, yeah. Because uni's very expensive.
Oh, so
And I was
expensive.
just like, yeah, if I could work and study at the same time, that would be blessed. But that wasn't an option at the time. But like you said, there's also like great benefits to going to university, because it's also like it's
more
the
creative freedom.
it's the student life. You know, you've got space to be creative and all these things. That's one down thing that I would say about the apprenticeship, at least the one that I do. Sorry, with Brooks, but
Shout
but
out
like
Brooks.
shout you out. But it's like, well, obviously it might not be their fault also, because we've gone through a pandemic and all these things, but you know, the online teaching is not the best, and it's very difficult to collaborate with your peers and do group work and things like that. It just doesn't it just doesn't work. So unless you're there physically, going to university whenever you need, like once a week or however they structure it, it's a very, very independent. It's very lonely sometimes, because then you don't really have someone else like looking over your screen and like saying like, oh, I can help you with this. You have to do absolutely everything by yourself, which I think can feel very isolating, very like lonely.
The Cambridge one is quite different to yours in the sense that group work is at the center of everything. We get assessed on our level, like our group work skills. I think in some of our modules we assess each other like anonymously on what kind of like as in on a scale of, I can't remember, 1 to 5 in different categories, as you being like a part of the team and how much you've produced. Also, like our portfolio pages, we color code who's done what.
Oh, nice.
And this and that, and also like we go, like we actually, the times that we work together as a group, we're seeing each other. So it's in the intensives, so in those 2 weeks. So it's very much like important for us to like be engaged with each other. But I think for the level 6, they should definitely like, I don't know if they're doing it that way, but it would make sense to do it that way. But I think with your question, it's quite hard because I love the creative freedom of like, and also you designing your own projects, like having a site, going on those like trips, like literally designing from the ground up. Like when you're in industry, sometimes you're stuck in one stage or you're in the middle of a certain stage, so you don't see that progression. But I think,
you know,
I don't know.
just to kind of like flip it, it could also be better, because then, like, as in taking the apprenticeship from earlier, because that way, like, the problem that we had, especially in the studio culture, was you comparing yourself to other people.
Exactly.
Because you're always watching what they're doing, and whereas like if you're doing an apprenticeship from early on, you're just focusing on your work and your development, and you don't have that comparison on what this person's doing, what that person's doing, all of this, because you're essentially just focusing on yourself. And maybe that kind of tunnel, or like that kind of blind view, can help you see your own growth throughout, because you're not comparing yourself to other people all the time. So
but
maybe
I kind of disagree though, because I think it's good for you to be in that place.
It's good to have experience.
It's good to have the experience, but I think eventually you're going to be in a space where you're going to be working with other people and would eventually compare yourself. So I think to others, I think at an earlier stage, when you're like doing your masters or like, I don't know, an undergrad, realizing that and actually working, I don't know.
I would disagree with that.
I'm gonna
I would
disagree with
say,
Actually, no, you know what?
I would say it's not about comparing
Maybe I
yourself. It's about learning how to work with other people.
Instead
of like seeing like what that person's doing and then having, you know, your self-esteem lowering and saying, I'm not that good. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've all done that nonsense, but it's all about like working collaboratively. If they can do that in the apprenticeship, I don't know how it was for you if you did a lot of group work, but I think that that's quite key. And if they can do that well and do it properly, I think it's Yeah, I think it's well on its way
I
to
think
kind
it's
of
just
beating
yeah.
maybe the traditional route.
Yeah, I
Possibly.
think, yeah, why not the traditional route for architecture? I feel like we have to take a year out to work in industry anyways, but if you're doing it whilst, studying, but also with the studio element as well, it would be like a well-rounded, I don't know, route for us to go down. Because, we're working, studying, then you have, I don't know how they do it, but with you guys, I guess with your intensive that week, but breaking it up along the years where you're getting to learn to collaborate with other students as well. Because, sometimes, I can't say anything because I wouldn't know, but taking the year out and then going from studying and then working, you've got to change your mindset from
the disconnect.
the disconnect, I guess, from studying in the uni in the studio to working in the firm. That's a big culture shock. So I don't know, I'm kind of team degree apprenticeship.
I think there's a disconnect between undergrad and then moving into practice, but at the same time I think personally I'd still do my undergrad and then potentially do apprenticeship where I'd do my masters instead, just because I don't know, I feel like the environment and just having that whole experience around your peers and kind of all going through this kind of motion of learning to design together, I think it was valuable despite having all that comparison. But like we said, it kind of boils down to how you prefer to study. So I don't think there's going to be one kind of objective solution. I think it's quite a subjective thing.
I think because the way I see it is that I think it is valuable to observe other people's approach to design. So in a sense, not comparison to bring yourself down, but actually I learned a lot from other people.
Yeah,
in,
definitely.
In part one, ways of working smart and not hard. I used to work in ways that I could have produced better work if I just took it at a different direction.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way I saw it. I would see someone working a certain way and I'm like, you know what, maybe I should adopt that sort of manner of working that might change the way things go. And I just like the whole idea of someone just kind of asking what are you doing, this and that, and you're talking to each other. I'd miss that in a sort of apprenticeship route sometimes.
But yeah, I guess my question to all of you guys, just to round things off, do you see, I guess, let's say in hindsight, do you see architecture as the be all and end all? Would you go through a different route if you could? Is architecture a dead end, like the title suggests? So yeah, I'll start off with you, Benee, and then we can go around.
Oh, can you come to me last? Let me hear what the architects think.
That's one.
I don't think it's a dead end. There's so much. There's people who, from my own experience of people that have worked with me, they've gone to work in different things. One guy that I was working with, he's moving on to starting his own practice. Another person's working in local authority, and some people make decisions based on their lifestyle. And I think a lot of the decisions that are made are based on the work-life balance, which is unhealthy. I think it's unhealthy in the architecture industry. And I've noticed quite a few people leave to based on their own mental health and their own ideal way of living life. That I think, I don't know, I feel with me, I'm at crossroads of it in the sense that I set out at the start of saying I wanted to pursue architecture, and that's all it is. But I think it's definitely not a dead end unless you see it as a dead end. That's what I think.
Perspective.
Yeah, that was a good answer. Naomi?
It's really difficult to answer that because I'm not an architect yet, so then I don't know what's beyond that. But I would say that it's my belief anyway, but I could be talking whatever, but there's, at least in the built environment, there's so many different paths, and they all kind of if you think of a branch of a tree, they always kind of touch each other. If there's at some point in your life you decide that, you know what, I want to change direction and I want to jump onto this other industry, be it project management or be it something else, or interior design or whatever. Like there's so many skills that cross over, and you'll be able to, I think, make that transition fairly easily. So I don't think it's a dead end. You could continue, and you could even evolve like a new type of architect or a new role if you're like, you know, an entrepreneurial thinker. Yeah. And you want to push it further than what is there traditionally, because
metaverse.
Yeah. You could just be
design
like
digitally.
Yeah, I think for us, because like we're quite young and because we just started the game, we would think like, okay, architect.
Yeah, like
Ton of
where
vision.
you've
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yourself,
and that's it. So it's like when you get there, it's like, then what?
Yeah.
But there is, I'm sure there's like infinite. We'll talk about this project architect. There's director. There's whatever. Like it will continue to go until until retirement. I think like there's just loads of things to do. So I don't think, unless it's really not for you and you think like Basma was saying, it's not doing it for you, doesn't fit your lifestyle, it's your wants and needs have changed, because that also happens as well, then it can be a dead end, because it doesn't cater for your way of life and your lifestyle. Then time for a change. Then
I agree with both of you, and what you were saying about perspective, Basma. Yeah, because if you look at it in terms of, I'm just going to be an architect, it's pretty linear. You feel like you have your part 1, your part 2, everything's lined out for you. But I do believe, like, we've spoken in previous episodes about the role changing, the role of the architect changing. So it's never like, you're never going to be doing exactly the same thing as an architect anyway, because society is changing around you. You may be struck by a pandemic, who knows. But I think even if you were to move outside of the field, those skills are very transferable. I feel like there's a lot to offer in terms of what you've learned developing yourself as an architect. And I think it's all about your mindset. You can do as much as you want to within that role. You can redefine what the architect is as well. So I don't think it's a dead end, unless it's, like we've said, it's not for you.
No, yeah, definitely. I think all of you have definitely said things that are quite key. To start, I think your first question was, would I change anything? And honestly, with what I was given, what was available, I wouldn't change anything, because I'm happy with where I am right now. It would have been nice if, you know, when I was looking, you know, some of those level 6 architecture apprenticeships were flying around, because then things would be very, very different right now. But I'm glad that that's something that, you know, has been brought about. So even if we didn't get to have it, people after us will be able to have that, you know, that experience and opportunity, and people that maybe have similar issues as I did, you know, because it is something that is very, very real. And I think a lot of people don't know about it. Like, you know, people face difficulties, even if it's not even just about getting into uni, but, you know, getting in and then still having obstacles. So, you know, I'm glad that those opportunities are now available for other people to be able to benefit from. And yeah, I don't believe that architecture is a dead end. As Naomi was saying, I believe that all the skills that are developed during, you know, the degree, when you guys are studying your design skills, and the resilience as well to, you know, get something wrong, redesign it and make it better. All of those things you can transfer into so many different industries. So yeah, man, I'm all for it. Architecture for the win. Yeah.
No, 100%. I think fundamentally what you guys all said is, like, you know, the transferable skills, and you know, that with architecture, like, there is something beyond that. And I think, like you were saying, Benee, like, working in project management, you're working with different people, you're learning, and I think the key thing is being or willing to learn. So I think that will take you further, and wherever field you find yourself in will be useful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the last question to you, Benee, is like, what advice would you give to anyone that happens to be in the same situation as you, not being able to pursue the course they want to do? What advice would you give them?
One thing I would definitely say is it's not the end of the world, especially yeah, I say that because I think that at that age, we're conditioned, as Basma was saying, to think like there's this one linear way to success, and if you don't follow this route, you're done for. You're going to end up working in, McDonald's or whatever. Like, there's nothing wrong with working at McDonald's, by the way. But, that's just the message that we send to kids, when they leave school. But there is so much opportunity out there. There's so many different avenues that you can take. And, it's just the key thing is finding something that you're passionate about, something that gives you reason to wake up in the morning, and not just following the crowd and following what, everyone's telling you to do. So yeah, I'll definitely just advise on that, just being strong, like in your situation, and not giving up, and just carry on being hopeful. Me personally, my faith definitely helped me a lot, and the people around me definitely helped me. So yeah, just don't give up, and yeah, keep pushing and keep searching, because I was searching for a year and a half, but I did find something in the end. There is always going to be something. It might take you longer, and you might start to think, oh, I'm getting old, by the time that I finish my degree, my friends will be this age and this, that. It's so easy to compare yourself to your friends, but trust me, none of that matters. Like, none of that matters. I think back now, and I remember even when I did get my blessing of, getting this apprenticeship, I was like, oh, but when I finish, I'm going to be 25 and all my friends are going to graduate at 21. Like, I'm going to be behind, da, da, da. But you're going to be 25 anyway. You're going to be 26 and 20. You're going to turn those ages.
It's like, what are you doing now?
Exactly. Exactly. Those ages are going to come, but it's about the journey, just being resilient in the journey and just being focused and being disciplined, because once you get there, it will be very, very worth it, and you'll be thanking your younger self for not giving up. So yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think just also to add to,
yeah.
Yeah, I think also something that I kind of like commend you for is like using what you already have. Like, you didn't necessarily, use the drawing skills in architecture, but you used it outside of architecture and made a business for yourself, and that's bringing you income as well as you now working and doing your many different things. So yeah, using what you have already and finding something in that. So
what's your @name for the viewers, so people can follow you out there, get your amazing drawings, guys, all of that good stuff?
Can't be shy now.
So you can find me on Instagram at bk.vis. Drop me a follow. Maybe like some pictures as well.
I was going to say subscribe. I was like,
request a drawing.
Yeah, so thank you for joining us today, Benee. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure to follow us on all of our social media at 1 to 100 podcast. So yeah, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
I don't know why people like romanticize working in a fast-paced environment, because it's nothing romantic about it at all. Do you know what I mean?
It's not fun.
Like, you want to work in a fast-paced? No.
Yeah.
No, I want to, especially as someone who's training, you want to go as slow as possible.
When you are part one, and you've written on your CV, for example, I can do Revit, CAD, Rhino, SketchUp, and do everything. Like, you even do the scale bar? Like,
That was such a
3 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I'm good. And then you get to practice, you're like, whoa, like this is completely different to what I know how to do.
But things are more realistic. Things have to be feasible. They have to meet costs. There's so many more limits when you're actually in practice that you have to consider.
Imagine like going through 12 years of education for someone to be telling you to fold envelopes. Are you mad?